It's that time of year again where it's offensively dark outside at like 4 in the afternoon, and I'm struggling. More so than most years, for some reason, I feel like a pile of wet garbage, and I really just want to hibernate like a bear in a cave, and maybe you do too. But instead of succumbing to the literal and metaphorical darkness, you must improvise, adapt, overcome. Luckily, this is not my first seasonal depression rodeo, and over the years I've assembled a small arsenal of habits and routines that help me avoid simply rotting in bed with my phone, while still honoring the need to rest and go inward. I wouldn't say these are really cures for the winter blues so much as coping mechanisms, because slowing down at this time of year is natural, and pushing ourselves to be super productive on top of the holiday and the end of year chaos is a one-way ticket to burnout town. So I invite you to grab a hot drink, break out your knitting, and take the pressure off yourself for at least the duration of this video. And hopefully in 15 minutes or so, you'll have at least one new thing to get you through. Option 1, use your hands to make something. For our purposes today, I'm not recommending all art or creativity, but specifically physical, tactile art. When we're dealing with gloomy weather, feeling withdrawn, potentially some holiday time, end of year sadness, we need to get out of our heads, not deeper into them. As a writer, I find that trying to write my way through my emotions while I'm still feeling them makes them worse. This really could be any fun, crafty thing you're interested in. Recently, I've been learning embroidery because I want to embellish my knitting and crochet. So I made a little stitch sampler bag thing out of an old shirt. And then a few weekends ago, I made this vessel out of air-dried clay and seashells I've had since I was in middle school that were collecting dust. Let me tell you, I felt like such a little kid while making this, and I finally understood the whole freeing your inner child thing because I had so much fun. And I love it. I think it looks so cool. Now, before some of you tell me, oh no, I'm not crafty at all, I always make a mess, yada yada, that's okay. Doesn't matter. That's not the point. Can you bake cookies for a gathering or even just for yourself? Is there a crafty song Pinterest even wanted to try? Do you have random materials in your home you can smush together in a non-intuitive way? This is your opportunity to play, experiment, transform with no pressure or expectations. The goal is not to create something perfect. In fact, the goal is more the process rather than the product. I've been finding crafting and cooking so refreshing recently that I'm making it a point to make at least one new thing every weekend. On the schedule this weekend is carrot ginger soup. But if you truly have no idea where to start with crafting or DIY, I recommend you take a class on Skillshare, who's kindly sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is a creative learning platform with thousands of classes taught by highly skilled creatives in fields ranging from crochet and sewing to illustration and journaling. As mentioned, I just started learning embroidery specifically because I want to jazz up my more basic garments. And I took the modern embroidery class with Kathleen Lyons, who really demystified the process and offered a ton of inspiration. And now this top is so much more fun to wear, better represents my personal style, and I will get way more use out of it. The holiday season is officially here, and a Skillshare subscription makes a fabulous gift not only for yourself, but for that special creative person in your life. The first 500 people to scan this QR code or click on the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Plus, you can gift Skillshare memberships to your friends and family. I know I would be very happy to receive one. So if you are ready to learn a new craft and finally finish your gift shopping, click that link and get started today. My next recommendation is to create immersive media experiences, which is a convoluted way of saying when you consume media, do so intentionally and without multitasking. You know how if you're watching a movie and scrolling on your phone, neither activity is enjoyable or memorable? Or if you're listening to a podcast while reading the news, you're not really digesting either one? Try not to do that. Maybe a year or so ago, in the comments of some Substack post that I've now long forgotten, so please forgive me, someone mentioned that back in the 70s when a new record came out, they'd gather their friends around a record player and have a listening party. And the listening was the activity, it was the event, and it was usually followed up by discussing the album. The commenter's point was that for a whole bunch of reasons, this is largely unheard of now, but I thought it'd be a pretty easy ritual to resurrect. So for the past year, I've been making a point to listen to albums in their entireties, new releases or otherwise, without distractions. On the one hand, this has led to a more comprehensive understanding of my favorite artists and albums, but more importantly, it's been a testament to the richness and the pleasures of engaging with exactly one thing at a time. For example, this past weekend, I finally had the time to listen through the new album from Florence and the Machine, who's one of my all-time favorite artists, which is probably not surprising at all. And I can't overstate how restorative it was to let the vibes wash over me and really hear each song for the first time. My final verdict for anyone who cares is that although Everybody Scream is no ceremonials, it has been on repeat for a full week and is stuck in my head right this very moment. So there you go. Of course, this doesn't just go for music, but for movies and television as well. Books, I'll get to in a second. The next time you sit down to watch a film or even binge watch a show, and for our purposes today, I'm not anti binge watching necessarily. So, with the desire to experience the thing you chose as fully as possible. Silence the phone and really let yourself get into it. You get to enjoy some art and put away your troubles for 2 hours or 12, depending. And then consider establishing a morning routine. Don't worry, I don't mean the 5 a.m. matcha latte and Pilates kind. I could never. I mean getting up earlier solely because you need more sunlight. Here in the Northeast, it's dark, like midnight dark, at like 4:30 p.m., and that should be punishable by law, and I don't know how anyone is not depressed about it. What this looks like for you depends on your schedule and lifestyle, of course, but even if we're only talking 1 or 2 days a week, a few extra hours of sunlight can do wonders for your mood. I know a lot of people recommend those sun lamps. I've never had one, so I can't say how well they work, but personally, I don't think anything can really beat the real thing. But maybe you're thinking, how in the world am I going to make myself wake up earlier when what I really want to do is actually melt into the bed? Excellent question, because I struggle as well. And the best life hack I've found is to plan one thing that you can do in the morning that will make you look forward to waking up earlier in order to do it. I'm only talking like an hour. This does not have to be some whole new sleep schedule. For me, it's an hour or so of drinking my coffee while reading long-form writing, whether that's mainstream publications, Substack writers I follow, or sometimes academic articles. I typically read my books in the evening before bed, and then essays and journalism kind of end up getting left behind in my day, even though I love them. So I very much look forward to my dedicated article time, and then I can make peace with actually waking up with my alarm instead of sneezing over and over. This little morning routine has a dual purpose, although calling it a morning routine might be a bit of an overstatement. First, you get to experience more day instead of night pretending to be day. And then you get to start that day off with an activity that brings you peace and joy. Obviously, what that peaceful activity is entirely up to you, though of course I'm going to recommend some kind of reading. But it could be exercise, walking your dog through the neighborhood, knitting with tea, the music listening time, what have you. Another option could also be copy work. This one is aimed mostly at the creative writers among us, but it can be a fantastic exercise for anyone who wants to write better in general. In fact, I have a more fully detailed video on this planned for the not too distant future. If, like me, you find yourself in the season of writer's block, copywork is a great way to continue practicing your craft without the pressure of generating new and polished material. Copywork is exactly what it sounds like, and shout out to the English professor who taught me this because it is not even remotely an original idea. You find a piece of great writing you admire and copy it down, preferably by hand. This practice goes all the way back to ancient Greek and Roman education as a tool for learning writing and rhetoric. Jack London, the author of The Call of the Wild, is a particularly famous example of a writer who sang the praises of copywork. He was known to have copied page after page of Rudyard Kipling's books, hoping to absorb Kipling's musical style. And that's essentially the goal. By copying lots of good writing, the advanced cadence, grammar, syntax, etc. becomes second nature, and then you'll be able to reproduce it in your own original work. I recommend getting a cheap, basic notebook that you can dedicate to copying. Here is mine. And choosing passages that are at least one paragraph long. That way you're taking in at least one full thought. This should be from a writer you think is way better than you. And eventually you can work your way up to copying full pages, stories, essays, novellas, books, if you really wanted to. As my former professor taught me, Copywork is for a writer as practicing scales is for a pianist. It's not just a rote repetition, but it's continually reinforcing the foundations of your art. Yes, generating new work every day is the ideal, but when it's not happening, it's not happening. And studying the greats is the next best thing. And finally, this last one is not so much a habit, but a thought process that can become a habit. Change your productivity mindset. And note that I said change instead of eliminate. Although both crafting and copywork result in a product, none of my previous options are truly productive in the money-making, career-building, that girl kind of way. That's by design. Something I've been struggling with the past month or so is feeling like I'm never getting enough done, especially on those days where I feel like a shell of a human, even though really I have been kind of working my ass off. Truthfully, I don't subscribe to the anti-work, anti-grind set stance. I'm not opposed to self-improvement and whatnot, but I don't believe that such productivity and improvement can exist without periods of rest and rejuvenation, which is the overarching theme of this whole video. So to combat those feelings of guilt, which are totally undeserved and irrational, to be clear, I've begun seeing these creative rituals as essential to productivity rather than a lapse of it. In other words, none of this is laziness or avoidance. We need this time to come back to our work with energy, excitement, and motivation. I'm including this little spiel because I just personally have a really hard time allowing myself to rest and go inward, as it were, even when I know I need to for my well-being, and there's a non-zero chance that you do too. Yes, it would be simpler to just fully embrace taking time off guilt-free. And if that's you, I envy you, congratulations. But some of us just are built like that, and then we end up in a loop of feeling guilty about feeling guilty. And that is just silly. Well, that is it for me today. Here is 5:05. Pitch freaking black outside. If you have a tip or a routine that helps you through the winter blues, please do share in the comments because it will almost certainly help someone, and that someone will probably be me. And if any of these ideas interested you, please consider giving the video a like. It is the easiest and fastest way to help support the channel. As always, thank you so very much for spending your time with me today. And if you're new around here, hello, I'm Jo, this is Thought Couture, and I help sensitive souls like yourself build or rebuild thoughtful and creative lives. Here we chat about all things self-education, classic literature, and creative writing. And in the new year, I'm hoping to start focusing a little bit more on the literature and writing aspects. If you're into that kind of thing, consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you've been around here for a minute, also consider hitting that notification bell. Also, exciting stuff. This is my first video filming with a real camera, and I've spent the past month trying to figure out how it works. So I hope everything looks and sounds okay. Reminder, I also have a Substack newsletter where you can find more of my personal creative writing, as well as creative writing prompts for you, and book recommendations and reviews. That's enough business stuff. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.